Most people say they want change, but very few are willing to start where change actually begins, in the awkward places, the places where you're not a pro, where you're a beginner, where it's uncomfortable and it makes you feel weird and noticed and stared at, and it's sticking with it when there's no visible progress yet. But in today's conversation, we talk about what real growth looks like when you're struggling, discouraged, or just plain tired of trying. My guest, Sheena, breaks down why hope isn't wishful thinking, and she also talks about why motivation beats, or why discipline actually is more important than motivation sometimes, and how learning to respond instead of react can completely change how you show up. And not just like for, the people around you, but in your business and even in your own body. We also get into daily practices that sound super simple, but are really, really powerful. And that can make a massive difference in your life, like training your brain, training your mind, building strength physically and emotionally, and the practice of gratitude. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or frustrated that you're doing the work but not seeing results yet, this conversation it will reframe all of that for you. What progress actually looks like and why starting imperfectly is the whole point. Today I'm joined by Sheena Olsen. She's a fitness trainer, a nutritionist, and a life coach. And this is one of those practical conversations that I hope will stay with you long after you finish it. Welcome to the show, Sheena.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. This is fun.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read Sheena's bio. By the way, one of my best friends' name is Sheena, and so when my kids found out I was going to be talking to somebody named Sheena, they're like, "It's Sheena," and I was like, "Not that Sheena."
That's funny. That's not the most common name, but I have ran into a few.
Right? No, it's not common at all. Actually, she was the first person I met who was named Sheena, and we were in college, and I was like, "Is that a real name? That's so cool."
That's fun.
All right. Okay. So Sheena Olsen is a fitness trainer, nutritionist, and life coach who helps women reclaim their strength by doing hard things on purpose. She is the founder of Strength Unleashed, where she teaches women how to build resilient bodies, disciplined habits, and confident minds without chasing perfection. Her coaching philosophy is rooted in consistency over motivation, ownership over excuses, and progress over perfection. Sheena is a mom to three teenage boys. Uh, that's a
I'm
lot,
in the thick of it right now.
right? I have five brothers, so I see that. I'm like, oh man. Three teenage boys, and watching them step into their gifts and talents is one of her greatest joys. As a wrestling family, they spend a lot of the time on the side of the mat learning real lessons in discipline and grit. She has been happily married for nearly 23 years, has a dog named Quill, and loves the mountains, hiking, paddleboarding, reading puzzles, and chips and salsas with a Diet Coke. She believes confidence is earned through action and that doing hard things on purpose changes everything. And I love that so much that it does. Doing hard things on purpose, because like you can be forced to become a better person because people treat you like, they can be like, hey, you're being a jerk, or you can choose to do things and choose to do hard things and choose to change who you are, not the core level, but the things that you don't like about yourself. You can do that on purpose, and that it changes everything.
Well, and I think like a lot of times when we choose to do those hard things, it amplifies and brings out the best parts of us. So it's all of those things that are hiding, buried underneath that come out when we get uncomfortable and start growing.
Right, right. Okay, actually, let's just go ahead and talk about your business. You want to tell me how and why you started it?
Um, I had been a stay-at-home mom for I don't know, at that point, almost 10 years. And I needed something that was like, I had kind of lost myself in the thick of motherhood. And I was like, I need something. And my degree was business management. So it was like, maybe I want to run a business. Maybe I want, like, what do I want to do? And what can I do still being in the thick of motherhood? Because I had like, my youngest was 4 at the time. And so it was just like, okay, I need something. And it kind of just fell right into my lap. There was an exercise class at the local church, and everybody would go, and the girl that taught it ended up getting hurt.
Uh,
And she's like, we can't have class for a while. I'm out for a couple of months because I hurt my knee or my I can't remember what she hurt, but and I was like, I think I could do that. I think I could teach that. I'm like, I'll teach the class. I'll come up with some stuff for us to do so we can keep getting together and keep exercising because this has been good for me to connect with people. And then I loved it. I was
Right.
like, oh, this is my jam. I want to do this. So I then went and did personal training certifications and whatnot and started just building from there. So, and that was 10, a little, not quite 10 years ago. So that's how it was born. But I found that a lot of us are so wrapped up in changing how we look that we miss the bigger part of exercise. Like it's very empowering. It builds confidence. It lets you like push yourself in ways that you don't always get to otherwise, especially for those who didn't grow up being an athlete. Like if you grew up in athletics, you know what that push feels like. But if you didn't, you've never maybe been pushed in that kind of a way. So it's been really fun. 2020 kind of gave me a run for my money, and
Right.
we
Literally.
pushed, yeah, we pushed into some other methods because I was like, okay, what do I do now? Like I'm this in-person business, and now all of a sudden I'm not set up for this. So that was a treat, but
Right. Right. No, I love the yeah, the physical aspect of things like exercise, it requires discipline, right? But it just I don't know, it feels like so like my husband and I would go walking every morning, 2 to 3 miles every day. Our goal is always 5 miles. We very rarely get there. But what some of my best brainstorming sessions have happened when we've either been walking or hiking. It just clears up a part of the brain that sometimes you can't access when you're just sitting around all the time. It just like it gets things like gets the blood going, so you're getting fresh blood to your brain, fresh oxygen to your brain. It's kind of cleansing, and it just
Mhm.
the endorphins that come, runner's high, which by the way, people who run are like really they're mystical to me. Well, I've had 6 knee surgeries, so running is not really in,
Oh,
in the cards for me. But I'm like, but why would you do that to yourself? But runner's high, you can get it from walking. If you walk long enough, you can get it from hiking, definitely from hiking. And it's just that I just love the rush of energy and ideas that come when I've been exercising, or like even just lifting weights will give it to me. And so I love that that's something that you emphasize.
so when we exercise, it actually activates the same part of the brain that lights up when we're learning.
Mm.
And so they say, like, if you have a kid struggling in a class, put them in a PE class right before their class that they're struggling in, because that will help their brain to
Wow.
be prepped and ready for that class. So the fact that you get like these ideas and the clarity, and then nature is such a great space for cleansing and clarity as well. So the combination of the movement and being outdoors is huge.
Right.
So,
Yeah, when we have really bad weather days, because again, 6 knee surgeries, I've got hypermobility syndrome, and so I dislocate things very
oh,
easily. So if it's icy outside, we will either go to like a local church to walk, or we'll just say we'll walk on the treadmill. But I'm like, walking on the treadmill is not the same as walking outside, just
no.
being outside. Sometimes that's all the time you get outside, and unless like you have a job that puts you out there, or you do it very intentionally, it's
Yeah.
hard to get outside time, which is a shame, it really is.
Yeah. No, I love to be outside, but the winter months really do make it harder, and I prefer to run in the cold,
Hmm.
but when it gets icy, it's super scary, and I'm getting to an age where I'm like, I don't want to fall. It's not going to be pretty.
Right?
Like,
Falling as an adult is not really pretty anytime, but when you're
no.
older and like things are, I mean, even if you're exercising, your body still gets stiffer as you get older. Like, my husband is he's like a fitness guru. He knows pretty much everything there is about how to build what you're wanting when it comes to physical stuff. But he's like, we're in our 40s now, and he's like, if I don't do this particular exercise every day, like he loses that flexibility, that strength, because as you get older, your body just naturally does that anyway. And it's frustrating to him, but I mean, that's just part, and especially for those, I mean, a lot of my audience is going to be 40s, 50s, even 60s. And so I'm like, um, if we're not doing it, that whole saying, if you don't do it, you're going to lose it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really accurate. And it's real. Like the fear of slipping it's like a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it really like the driveway this morning when I went out, I was like, "Oh, okay, it's kind of slick today. Like I gotta be mindful with how I'm moving
Right.
just to like move the car and whatnot." But um yeah, it's amazing to me the shift in the mindset too when we're in our teens, it's about performance, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're exercising as a teenager, it's typically because you're playing a sport and you're like you're looking for performance and to pay off in some aspect. And then in your 20s, like you gain the like freshman 15 and you're like, "Oh, I want to look better." And so exercise is all about changing how your body looks.
Right.
And then as you start to hit like the 30s and 40s, you're like, oh, no, I want to be able to move when I'm
When you're
older. I want to keep my
right.
independence. I don't want to
Right.
lose the muscle. Like, so it changes your perspective too as you age. Like, why does this matter to me now? Because it's very different through different stages and ages.
Right. Right. Okay, so with your business, what is the number one source of joy when it comes to running it? I'm gonna guess maybe people. I don't know.
100%. Like watching, so I mostly work with women and I have worked with a handful of men and actually a handful of kids too, but most of my clientele is women and watching women discover their own power and their own strength is like the absolute best part of my job. Like it's not something you can describe. Like everybody's like you should be posting transformation pictures and I'm like the transformation of watching that confidence build isn't something I can share
Right.
and but you see it, you see them light up, you see them recognize like, oh, I can lift this heavy weight. I can do this hard thing. And it's really beautiful to watch. So that 100% is the biggest joy in my job is working with people and watching them push themselves and recognize how much they still have, like how much they have within them that
Right.
they can do.
Right. I really like that because you're right. You can't really capture the joy, not unless you're like recording 100% of the time, because emotions are hard. Even when somebody's smiling in that picture in their before and after, they're smiling really big, but it's still really hard to capture that joy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like people tend to judge the outward, like they'll look at it before and after and they'll say, well, there's not that big of a difference. But part of the joy, I mean, part of that, the miracle is the progress on the inside that has led to those results on the outside, even if the results on the outside aren't as big as like say people want to see, because
Right.
everybody loves seeing somebody that used to be like 400 pounds and they're now down to 200 pounds. That is a massive difference. But
Yeah.
somebody who only loses 25 pounds, but they gain themselves in the process, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And when I first started, I shared a lot of before and afters, and I stopped doing that because to me, like, just because somebody got a result doing this doesn't mean you're going to. We're all built
Right.
different. And I really want to focus on building strength and building confidence and not necessarily having to shrink yourself to be where you want to be, because that's not always the case for everybody. So,
Right. Right, right. And I do like that you did say that you do work with men sometimes. I appreciate that you work mostly with women because, um yeah, women, yeah, there's I don't want to get into it, but I'm like there's just a lot of reasons why women believe they can't, and it's good to have a mentor who believes they can and who has seen it happen over and over again.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it it has been primarily a male-dominated field, like weight training and
Right,
bodybuilding and all of that. And women really weren't a big part of that.
right,
And it's coming, like it's getting better and it's getting more, but women need it just as much as the men do.
right.
So it's definitely to me a very critical thing for women to see like, oh, I can lift weights and I can be strong and that is okay.
Right. And women, I mean, I know I've talked to, and this is something that my husband and I talk about all the time because, like he sometimes will do personal training stuff and people will be like, women especially, but I don't want to be bulky and huge muscles. And he's like, well, women are naturally not going to be that way. You have to really, really work hard and be very strict to get that sort of look that those women bodybuilders have. But when you say women need it as well, like our bones weaken if they're not being strength, if they're not being tested, if they're not being pushed against and pulled against, and our tendons also they get brittle and ligaments, and if we're not lifting, it's not just the muscles, it's also the supporting structure, and like if we're not lifting weights, then we lose that ability to do that kind of thing, and that's when you fall and you end up breaking something or tearing something because your body's not used to having stresses put on it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was interesting watching my grandma. She passed away a couple years ago, but prior to her passing, she had some problems and we ended up having to go in and do physical therapy, and watching the strength that she built in a very short amount of time as a 70, like in her late 70s, was awesome. And it just helped like solidify, like it is never too late. It's never
Right.
too late to start. It's never too late to really work on yourself.
Right. Right. And I know like men in their 40s, 50s, as they start to really research, like they look at the bodies of a 20-year-old, 25-year-old man and they're like, how do I get there? And then they see how long it could possibly take. It can be very, very discouraging, but I mean, it's better to start and to actually work towards it, even if you never get to that 20-year-old body that you want, because I mean, like you said, it's never too late to start, and the benefits just are huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have a question about mindset. Mindset's one of my favorite things to talk about. But when you look back at your journey, what mindset shift for you made the biggest difference in your personal or your business growth?
Um, Probably recognizing, gosh, for me, there's a couple of different ones. It's hard to pinpoint one, but it's okay to be a beginner. Like whatever it is you're doing, whether you're starting a new job or learning something new, you have to start as a beginner. And if you start with that beginner mindset instead of going in like, oh yeah, I know, you will actually gain more from the process and you will learn like you're a beginner instead of
Right.
learning like you already know it all.
Right, but pride and stuff and looking weak and stuff.
Yeah, it really is hard, especially like as a business when you're coming into something and you're like, because I mean I have a background in fitness. Like I was an athlete. I played soccer. I was a gymnast. I was and a dancer. Like I did a lot of different athletic things growing up. But just because I had done them doesn't mean I know all the muscles in the body. It doesn't mean I know how to like program and build this. And so going in recognizing like, okay, I don't actually know these things and I have to learn them, and allowing myself to be a beginner was kind of intimidating, but at the same time, like you have to start as a beginner to progress.
Right, right. Man, muscles, like I took a bunch of human anatomy classes for my degree, and gosh, those, yeah, the muscles, insertions and origins and originations, whatever they're called, very, very hard to learn. All the different
Yeah,
muscle names. Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's one habit you practice regularly that most people underestimate but has made a big difference for you?
Um, I cannot choose between two, so you're gonna get both
Okay.
of them.
Okay.
Uh, Gratitude.
Oh my gosh. You're like the third or fourth person I've interviewed who said gratitude. I love it.
I I started a gratitude practice at one of my lower points. I was really, really struggling. I was very, very unhappy. I thought my marriage was ending. Like I was I was struggling. And I started this gratitude practice. And I at the beginning it was like write down three things every night. Like what are the three things that you're grateful for today? And that practice, I am still, we're like 6 years in, and I still do that every night, except for it has shifted because I found that writing it down every night, I didn't always have my notebook with me, and I didn't like So I set a timer on my phone. It goes off at 8 o'clock every night. And I have 4 questions that whoever's with me, we go through them. If I'm by myself, I'll write them down or I'll post it on social media or whatever. But it's what was the best part of your day today? Because sometimes what are you grateful for today? Like the day that we had to put our dog down or the day that my grandma passed, like I'm like, okay, what am I grateful for today? But every day always has a best part.
Right,
And so, what was the best part of your day today? Number two, who are you grateful for today and why? Because when we feel gratitude for a person, we actually feel that emotion more deeply. And gratitude is one of the highest vibrational frequencies. So we really want to feel that. We want to have that feeling of gratitude because it brings good stuff into our world, right?
right,
And then uh what did you do today that you're proud of? And that keeps me doing things and pushing myself and like looking for, okay, what can I do today that I can be proud of? How can I answer that question tonight? And then what are you most looking forward to tomorrow? Because that gives us hope. And hope is important when we're
right.
struggling.
Yeah.
But that habit has been game changer. And then my other one is meditation.
Mm.
Being able to clear my mind and also have that it's almost like I'm training my brain to be able to respond instead of react.
Right, right.
And that has been huge, huge for me. And they're small things that you feel like are not going to make that big of a difference, but they've been big for
Yeah,
me.
I would agree with that. Like, yeah, gratitude is massive because if you can't appreciate what you have, then why are you going to get more? And being able to slow down. Um, so I don't, are you familiar with Clifton Strengths?
Yeah,
Okay, so Clifton Strengths, like I'm high on the executing themes, right? And I like to go, go, go. And so sometimes I'm like, but if I slow down, I don't get to go, 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 and I don't accomplish as much. But guess what? Slowing down puts you in a different frame of mind where you can pick which activities will be the most valuable to go, go, go at, and then you don't waste as much time, you know? And so
yeah,
like I love it. And I have a morning ritual that I do every single morning that involves gratitude. That's the very first thing I do. I start with gratitude. And then I go through like writing down like my goals and writing down why I believe I'm here on Earth, you know, and basically like who am I supposed to be? And it's not necessarily who I am now because we haven't reached who we're supposed to be at any given time. You know, there's still something to
yeah,
go towards and work towards. And then I read those out loud. I do silence and meditation. I write in my journal and I exercise. And I'm like those habits have really they've changed how I approach my business. They changed how I've approached life, my relationships, all of that. I just, you know, they're important. They're small, but they're really important.
yeah. I love your who am I supposed to be? That is a very powerful question. I like that.
Right. Well, and I'm an extrovert, and I don't know, our society, what I know everybody says introverts need to be extroverted, so that's what the introverts carry. But as an extrovert, I get shamed for wanting to be in front of people, for wanting to get attention, for wanting to be on stage and impacting people and helping people. And I've been shamed my whole life for that. And so I'm like, God didn't put inside of me this personality and expect me to hide it. He actually
No.
expects me to be big and to be me, you know? And so
Yeah.
like my purpose, why am I here? It's important. Like God doesn't create redundant people, you know? And so I'm like, I have a reason to be here. And if I'm not living, you know, for that reason, then I'm not really living, you know?
Yeah. No, purpose is huge. I think keeping purpose at the forefront of your mind allows you to keep remembering like why am I here? What am I pushing forward to instead of like I don't know. It's really easy to get sidetracked with all of the distractions, being on our phone, being on TV, being on social media, like whatever. There's so many distractions and that pull us away from that sense of purpose.
Right.
And so I think reminding yourself, I think that's huge.
Right. And the meditation thing, do you know who Brian Tracy is?
Yes.
Oh, you do? I love Brian Tracy
Yes.
so much. Like
Yes.
he works with like these big top executives and companies, and he said that one of the common denominator for a lot of those high-powered CEOs and executives is when tragedy or when horrible things happen, they go calm and they slow down. and they think and they seek silence and they meditate. They don't jump for action. So I'm like, if it's good enough for them, then it's good enough for me. And so that
Yeah.
meditation, like that's super important.
Yeah. No, it has definitely been a game changer for me, just in being a parent, but also in
A
like,
parent of three boys.
yeah. Yeah. But also just like in the relationships that I'm building with my clients and like I don't know, it's been huge for me to be able to because I'm also extroverted and go all the time. And so having that moment to slow down is really is critical for me.
Right. Okay, so if some one of the listeners, like if there's listeners who want more success, but they feel stuck, what mindset or even a practical change, but mindset change, um, would you encourage them to focus on first?
I think for me, I think understanding your values is huge in moving forward and getting clarity. Because I think clarity matters a lot when you're getting started because I started in kind of chaos. And I think if I had had some clarity about what my vision was,
Right,
but initially it was like, I just want to do something that's not being a mom.
right,
And
right,
so I think if I had had that clarity and had an understanding of my values, my business would have maybe been built a little bit differently and things might have progressed a little quicker. But we learn, right? Some of us
right,
learn by listening and some of us learn by doing things the hard way.
right. And I think, yeah, I think that all of us learn by doing things the hard way to some degree in our own lives, because like the
Agreed.
value thing, like, that people who've listened to my podcast, they'll know that like okay, so I'm an author. I've got over 85 books published. My biggest goal was to be like a big best-selling author. And I had clients that I would teach all my marketing principles to because I love marketing. It's my number one thing. And they would go on and become seven-figure authors or very high six-figure authors. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I'm like, I finally came to a realization over the last several months, and that's why this is kind of like repeat information for people because I've already put it into one of my episodes. But my value, my number one value is not success. It's not my business. It's not my books. Before I got married, it was because that's what I had. I didn't have, I was already been through college. I'd met all of my goals so far. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm going to just push for my career, right? But my number one value is my marriage. And all of my friends or my clients, when they would go and do the things that I taught them to do, which do require a lot of time, it's like a long-term plan, but the faster you can do it, the faster you can reach success. They didn't have that value or they didn't have family or whatever. They were able to do it for like 10 to 16 hours a day. And me, I'm like, as soon as my husband's home from work, then I'm like, I'm his. I'm like, I don't want to do anything else. I just want to be with him. And of course, we're both quality time on the five love languages. And for the first, 15 years of our marriage, he would get home from work around 3 in the afternoon, which when you're homeschooling, and that means like that's a big chunk of the day that could have been put towards work after the kids are done at homeschool. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, I always just thought I was like lazy compared to all these other people. I had no idea it was because it was a value conflict with my dreams and my goals. I'm like,
Yeah.
if my marriage has to be sacrificed in order for me to be successful, I will never be successful. And so the
Yeah.
value thing, that is a huge deal to me. Like, yeah, I'm glad
Yeah.
you mentioned that because if your values are in conflict with what you want, then what you want's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So when your values are in conflict, then how do you adjust so that they actually harmonize?
Um, I think initially it's having that recognition like, oh, okay, like this is actually what's really important to me. And recognizing that everybody's definition of success is different. So, like, for some people, success is money or fame or,
Right,
whatever.
right,
And for some people, it's knowing that you've made a difference. It's knowing that you've
right,
made a change, even if it's in your your own little family.
right,
So, I think recognizing like so you figure out what those values are, and then from there you redefine what success looks like for you. And you have to let go of anybody else's definition of success or expectations of
right.
you.
Right. And then just not feel shame because I mean, there's a culture, there's two competing cultures. One where if your definition of success does not include money, then you're pathetic. But there's the competing culture of if your success version of success does in, or does not, if it does not include. So basically the people who say you should be successful by money and the people who say money is bad. And I'm like both of them unintentionally maybe cause shame in people. And I'm like, it's okay to want to be successful as a stay-at-home mom, or it's okay to
Yeah.
want to be successful as a CEO. It's okay to want to be successful raising kids. I mean, there's nothing wrong with whatever your version of success is. There's nothing shameful about it, and you shouldn't be embarrassed by it. And I'm saddened that society does that, especially to women. Like, oh, you should be staying home with your kids, if you're working, or oh, you should be out working. Why are you staying home with your kids? You're not really doing anything for society there. And I'm like, can nobody win?
Yeah, yeah, yes, it's such a double standard, and I struggle because I think women should be supportive of women. Like whether like I have several friends who have very successful careers and they chose to have careers. Some of them chose to have careers and some of them it was like I don't have a
Have a
choice. I
choice.
have to do this.
Right.
And but they've made very successful careers for themselves, and I have moments where I find myself a little bit jealous because I growing up I did not envision myself being a stay-at-home mom. I thought I would have this big career, and then when I married my husband and he was like, I would really love it if you can stay home with our kids and we can make that work. And then you can once we don't need you to be home, you can go back. But we haven't found that spot where I am not needed at home. And so so this worked for me to start this
Right.
business to allow me to be available and set my own hours, set my own schedule and feel like I'm still contributing, but also being able to be. So I kind of have the best of both worlds
Right.
that way, but I think it's a matter of recognizing because I also had moments where I'm like, oh, like there's like the fitness industry in and of itself is a $1 billion industry.
Right.
And so I'm like, my business should be bigger. I should be bigger. And I'm like, you know what? I actually don't really necessarily need to be bigger. I need to provide quality to the people that are
Right.
in front of me.
Right. And that's funny because like my mother-in-law was complaining. She's always wanted to be a nurse. She loves working in hospitals. She's applied to be a nurse 4 times, been accepted 4 times, but because her husband was in the Navy, they always moved right when it was time to
Oh,
start school. And so she's always been like, "Ah, that's all I want to do." And then she got a job working in a hospital, which she absolutely loved. It was like 4 to 6 hours a day. And she was surprised that people still needed her in the family. She's like, just because you become a grandma doesn't mean people still need you, or don't need
yeah,
you anymore. And she, it was really funny because she'd be kind of like frustrated, like, why do you guys still need me? Because you're grandma. Like, and they lived
yeah,
several states away from us. And I was used to calling her when I had a question. I couldn't do that anymore.
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
like, I
No,
don't think you ever get to that point.
you do get used to the way that things are because like I've told my kids, I'm like, you guys would be in trouble if I went back to work right now. Like I like so yeah, you're needed to the level that you allow.
Right. And that's where boundaries come in.
Yep.
Um, I did a really long episode on boundaries already too, because I don't have boundaries built into my system. And so I've had to learn how to put boundaries on my business, on my time, my family, immediate, extended, all of it, and it's a hard thing for me.
Boundaries are hard for me too, and I thought I was doing so good. I'm like, hey, I said what I wanted. And then I was talking to my therapist at the time, and I'm like, okay, I set my boundary and I said what I wanted. And she's like, okay, but did you say what's gonna happen if that doesn't happen? And I'm like,
No.
no, that's that's really scary and hard. Like, how do I do that? Like,
Right.
so like learning those steps of boundaries. I mean, I'm 40 something and still working on learning those boundary steps.
Right,
But
because it's not a boundary unless you're able to back it up with the consequence. It has to have a consequence, otherwise it's not really a wall.
yeah, yeah,
Consequences
no,
are hard for me too.
it is really hard. It is really hard. And I don't want walls. I
Right.
want like a nice white
Little
picket
pretty
fence.
gate, right?
Yep, with just a gate. This is how you can access.
Right.
But
Right. White picket
yeah,
with some roses.
yeah, yeah. Make it pretty, nice little gate for you to walk through, but come through my gate. Don't trample my roses.
Right. So when you're interacting with other people, what common mistake do you see them make when they say that they want growth or success in mindset or just business life or like even in your physical like activity stuff like that. So what common mistake do you see people make when they say that that's what they want, that growth or success?
I think just not understanding that growth requires you to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that is a hard concept for people sometimes. And sometimes I'm going to jump in the deep end. It's an all or nothing kind of a situation. And the way that I usually explain it to my clients is we're going to pick one or two things that we're working on. And I know that doesn't feel like a lot,
Hmm.
but if I asked you right now to go run a marathon with me, is that a good idea? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, you have to build up or you're going to burn out.
Right.
And so picking like at the very most, we pick three habits that we're working on. And I also do this with myself. I don't want to, I don't want to burn myself out on whatever it is I'm working towards. So I'm going to pick two or three things that I want to really dial in and focus on so that I can be successful and I can get to the goal
Right.
instead of jumping in and then being like, oh, this was actually a terrible plan. Because, like, if you're untrained and you go run a marathon, you are going to be hurt. You possibly could injure yourself. Like,
Right.
it is a terrible, terrible idea. I would never tell anybody to do that. That's bad advice. And I think we just look at certain goals as like, okay, but I have to do all these things in order to get to this goal. And it's like,
Hmm.
yes, you do, but let's break it down.
Right.
We're not going to do them all today. And so I think that all or nothing mindset, letting that go and then recognizing it's going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
You are going to have moments of uncomfortable in all of this, and that's normal. And you're going to feel alone, and that's also normal, but you're not alone. Like
Right.
other people have struggled this struggle before. So be vulnerable, allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to reach out and say, hey, like I'm having a hard time with this. Has anybody else struggled with this?
Right.
Because I think we don't ever want to show that side of ourselves. We don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to say we're struggling,
Right.
but being able to open up and say, okay, this is hard.
Hmm.
What do you recommend? Like, where can I get help?
Right.
And we have the world at our fingertips with social media and whatnot. So being able to reach out and like I think there's a group for everything in Facebook like if
Right.
you look it up so like you can find your audience of people that's going through the same struggles, just don't jump in the trenches and get stuck there.
Right.
Find the right group of support that's like, oh yeah, I've been there, this is what I did and it helped.
Right. Right. I like that. And then like what you're saying, you can't eat the whole thing in one go. You eat it one bite at a time. You know, making small progress is really important. I was at an event this morning with my husband and we were talking about goals and one of the guys was like his goal for the year was going to be less screen time on his phone. And he's like, but then when I looked at the whole year, it was very overwhelming. And so he's like, instead, I set my goal to be less screen time until January 15th. And he's like, it's a lot more manageable when you take it a little at a time like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's a really good point. And for me, with my daily habits, for me, it was more of a I'm jumping in with all feet, you know, because I was like James Clear. Have you read Atomic Habits?
Yes.
He's like, this is not a habit, this is not a goal, this is who you are. And so I'm like, I am a person who does this every single day. I do these things every single day. And that's and part of it was I dabbled in all like the gratitude habit every day. I dabbled in my purpose, like writing it down, reading out loud. I dabbled over the last 2.5 years ish, but when I decided, I'm like, this is who I am. And if doing these things every single day leads to people being more successful, then and I view myself as a successful person, maybe I'm not currently where I want to be successfully, but I won't get there unless I view myself as that person already. I'm like, I am a person who does this every single day. And that's been really significant for me. That's way different from physical exercise. That's, well, I do physical exercise every day too, but it's way different. Like back, P90X. I'm sure you know P90X.
Yes. Yep.
So, saying I exercise every day could be a 5 minute walk. It could be a 3 mile walk. It could be a lifting my, do bicep curls, 10, just 10, but that's still exercising. At least I'm moving. I'm doing something every single day. It's not the same as like when I bought P90X and was like, I'm doing this every day and ended up with an impinged shoulder and had to do physical therapy for 2 months.
Yeah.
Because my body wasn't ready for that level of every day.
Well, and I think understanding like I don't want to say there's limits, but there is limits
There's
within the
limits.
scope of what you can do
Right.
in this moment. And
Right.
like you said, like going for a walk every day or stretching and doing yoga or like I did 75 hard a couple years ago when it was really big. And I have the tendency to push and go. Like I have
That
overdone
ability.
myself.
Right.
And then I got to pay for it because that recovery was awful to try and
Right.
get my hormones back to where they were
Oh,
supposed to be.
right.
And like,
Right.
so when I started that, I was like, okay, 2 workouts a day is taxing on my body. So one of those is going to be like maybe a little bit harder workout, maybe some lifting, maybe, some like metabolic conditioning. And one of those workouts is going to be yoga or like restorative
Stretching.
yoga or stretching or going for a walk. Like I can't, my body cannot sustain 2 high intensity workouts in one
No.
day
Right.
for every day for 75 days. And so, like, being very mindful and aware of what you're asking of yourself and what it's going to cost you.
Right.
Like I could have done crazy intense workouts every day, but then it would have cost me. It would have cost me my health, which seems crazy, but there's such thing as too much of a good thing.
Right.
Everything has everything has to have a boundary.
Right. Yep. Again, back to the boundary thing.
Yep.
Um, all right. Okay. So, if your past self were listening to this episode, what advice would you give? Like, what would you have wanted to have heard 10, 20 years ago to get yourself where you are now, but faster and more efficiently? What sort of advice would you have needed to hear?
Um, get clarity and hire a coach.
I love that. Coaches are amazing. That's all I have to say.
Like, I have hired a couple of different coaches throughout my building of my business, and I made more progress working with a coach than I ever did on my own. And understanding what I wanted, because like I said, I started in chaos. It was just like, oh, I think I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'm doing it. And I didn't really have any clarity. I didn't really have a plan on
Right.
where I wanted this to go until we hit 2020. And then it was like, oh, okay. Now what? Like, how do I move forward? And because there wasn't any clarity on what I wanted from it, it threw me. It took me some time to like really regroup and come back and be like, okay, I want to be online. I want to be in person. I want to be doing these things. And so once I got some clarity, and even now I'm still refining that clarity of like, what do I really want? And everything says to like niche down. And I struggled with that. I'm like, I want to help everybody. I want to help everybody. And you can't be an expert at everything.
No.
So find where you shine. Find what is really your space and what makes you happy. And do niche down as far as you can.
Right. Right. Like when I've coached authors in the past, I'm like, "Okay, who's your ideal audience?" Everybody. I'm like, "But you write fantasy. I know a lot of people who don't like fantasy. So who's your ideal customer? Who's your ideal reader?" And it's very, very difficult for some business owners to figure that out, like finding out who you're supposed to, who is best for you, who you work with best. It's not just who could benefit from your services, but who bounces off your personality the best. Those are your ideal customers, because they're the ones that are going to be most impacted by you and
Yeah.
be and stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sheena. I'm really glad you're able to come on.
Yeah, this was really fun. I love being on podcasts. Like I think a good conversation is just fun.
Right? Me too.
So,
I'm a talker. I like talking.
same.
Okay, so where can people find you?
I am on Instagram and as Strength Unleashed with Sheena. I spend more of my time there than I do on Facebook, but I am also on Facebook. I have Strength Unleashed with Sheena on Facebook, and then I have a group, and it's Strength Unleashed. Um, I can't even remember grit and
We'll
I
put
can't
the link in the
remember.
show
Oh my
notes.
goodness. But yeah, I have a private group as well that I spend more time in than I do on my Facebook page just because I get less interaction on Facebook than anywhere.
Yeah,
So,
Facebook's frustrating. That's a whole different topic. All the
right.
algorithms for all the websites are all frustrating.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for joining me. I've enjoyed this a lot. And for those who are listening, hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell icon to be alerted to future videos. Comment below if you have a question for Sheena, or if anything resonated with you. I'd love to hear, and I'm sure Sheena would love to hear it as well. And I will talk to you all later. Bye.